everyone, welcome back to Advancing with Amy, Mental Health Warrior and Neurospicy Mama. In today's episode, we have an amazing guest, Avantika, who's here to share her journey with bipolar disorder. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at just 17 years of age, and she has been through ups and downs, but has come out stronger and wiser. Join us as we chat about finding the right therapist, the importance of peer support, and how she manages her mental health with activities like mindfulness and journaling. She even runs her own mental health organization. Grab a comfy spot and tune in. This episode is full of heartfelt advice, personal stories, and lots of encouragement. Don't miss out. All right, we're here with Avantika today, and she's going to talk with us about her journey with mental health. And welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be a part of it.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I was reading you actually came to find out at 17 that you had bipolar disorder. Can you tell me how that came about?
Yeah, I was 17 when I got the first diagnosis. So my dad was diagnosed with bipolar disorder as well. And I knew that he had something when I was like 14 or 15. I just didn't know what it was. Like from a very young age, I knew that there was something that he was dealing with. We just haven't detected it yet. And the psychiatrist who diagnosed him with it, I was like, finally, we have an answer to it. And I honestly just went to see the psychiatrist to see her and just have a conversation with her about what it entails and everything. And she mentioned that there's like an 80% chance that the kids might as well get bipolar. And I was like, oh, that could never be me. That could never happen to me and stuff like that. I was just in denial. And then the thing is, when I was 16, I was experiencing all the signs of bipolar. I just didn't know that it was bipolar. I thought that everyone has good days or bad days, and I just brushed it off as just a bad day. And yeah, like I went back home, I did some research on it and I read up on it and I got myself acquainted with what it actually entails. And then I started thinking about my whole year. And then I was like, oh, I actually might have bipolar because that is what I've been dealing with since I was 16. And then I went back to the psychiatrist and then she basically diagnosed me with it because she heard me, she took my case history and everything, and she got to know my story more intimately. And then she was like, oh yeah, you have bipolar.
Wow, it sounds like that came as a shock and was hard to accept.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially considering that I was only 17, I feel like it's a very young age to be diagnosed with anything, let alone a mental health disorder. So it was definitely a shock. And I remember being in denial for a few months followed up after that, where I was like, okay, this is the information, the new piece of information that I have. What do I deal with it? What do I do with it? So yeah, it was definitely a big shock for me.
Yeah. So what do you do to help yourself with those mood changes? Do you take medication? Do you journal?
So right now I'm on medications. I have been on medications for the last 2 years. So let to give you a little bit of backstory, it took me a while to get the right therapist and the right psychiatrist for me. I went through like about three or four psychiatrists, four or five therapists, and then finally in 2022 I found two amazing healthcare professionals. So I've been going to them consistently for the last 2 years, and I am on medications. Do seek therapy on a regular basis as well. So these are the two things which have been monumental in my management of bipolar. And apart from that, I engage in different hobbies. I work on after therapy work that I do. I engage in mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, and I journal sometimes, not so much, but sometimes I have to do that as well. So it's tiny bits of activities here and there that honestly keep me sane.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you found a good treatment regimen, so that's wonderful. Can you tell me a little bit about peer support and how that plays into your mental health?
So I think I started being part of this peer support group a year ago, a year and a half ago, maybe. I was so tired of dealing with mental illness by myself. And I was like, I need to be surrounded by people who have been through similar stories, who know what I'm going through, and with whom I can talk about it in a very non judgmental space. That's when I just started looking up bipolar peer support groups in India, and I came across this amazing support group. And yeah, it has been monumental because it's just it's a bunch of people who have similar diagnosis, or maybe they have like type 1, type 2, or cyclothymia or something like that, but it's somewhat similar and they understand what you go through. The amount of empathy and compassion that there is there in the support group is phenomenal. Yeah, to be surrounded by people who are just there to support you, to listen to you without any judgment plays a big role in your mental health journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you were able to find that. Is that all online or do you actually go in person sometimes and meet people?
They do have meetups offline. I have only been to one of them. I haven't found the time to go to more of them. But yeah, but like whenever I'm struggling, I just shoot a message, or if I'm like going through, someone is going through it, I just read the messages or try to provide support. So it has mainly been online for me, but they do have offline peer support as well.
Okay, that's great. And I noticed you have a website of your own and a book and everything like that. Would you talk to us a little bit about that?
So I run a mental health organization called Beautiful You. We have a podcast of our own. It's a Spotify and YouTube. We are active on Instagram. We have LinkedIn. We also recently launched a book, an ebook that Surviving Time that shares people's journey of mental health struggles in the form of prose and poetry. And yeah, so basically we are advocating for mental health through different mediums on social media, as well as we are bringing it offline now. So we are focusing on spreading the advocacy offline as well.
That is wonderful. Yeah, I looked at some of the poetry and it was really good. So that was interesting. So, is there anything that you would say if you were talking to a young teen like you were at 17 and they're starting to notice some of the signs and symptoms, what they should do, what they should look for?
Do you mean would they should look for bipolar if they are starting to notice certain signs?
Yes.
One particular thing that you need to know that isn't much talked about is the fact that your energy levels will go hand in hand with your mood swings. So the way that you function when you're going through a low episode versus when you're going through a high episode versus when you're going through a period of normalcy, it will differ a lot. So you need to make sure that you're showing grace to yourself, you're compassionate with yourself, and that you're patient. Because one thing that has helped me a lot throughout the journey, looking back now, that I realized is that just being patient with it. Because the first psychiatrist or the first therapist that you talk to may or may not be the right fit for you. So it takes time to find the right professional help for you as well. And as much as it sucks, as much as it is dreadful and everything, you need to go through the process because once you find the right fit for you, your life will change. Yeah, someone who is going through it, I would just advise them or suggest them that just be patient with yourself, read up on it, educate yourself on it as much as you can, read up stories, read up videos, and go through all of these things, educate yourself on it because when you are well informed, that makes you more empowered and that gives you more power to handle your disorder. Your disorder doesn't have to define you in any way, it doesn't have to shape you or mold you. Like it holds as much power over you as much as you let it. So make sure that it's like for me, it's like I have bipolar, that is a part of me, but that's not all of me. It's just a
Right.
part of me. There is so much to me than just bipolar.
Yeah, that is great advice. I love that's just a part of you and not all of you. So, I have bipolar disorder myself, and so I feel the same way. So,
When I do.
I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 30s.
Oh wow, okay.
So, yeah, I was diagnosed with depression before then, and then later they found out it was actually bipolar disorder.
Oh wow.
So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
How have you been managing it?
Medication, journaling. I have not been able to find a therapist lately. I had a good therapist and they retired, so I'm in the process of trying to find another one.
Oh, I hope that
Or
you find the right one for you.
thank you. So, is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
One thing is that if you are someone who is diagnosed with a disorder, I would like to reiterate once again that the disorder only holds as much power over you as much as you let it. It does not need to limit your potential. It doesn't need to put yourself in any boxes whatsoever. And yeah, it's not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence at all, and you can come out of it. There's no cure at the moment, but we are hopeful that with the way that medicines and technology is like advancing, there might be a cure for bipolar a few years down the line, but it is something that can be managed. I won't lie, it is difficult. You will have such hard days on sometimes it will be so hard for you, but on other days it's worth it. Like it's living is worth it. Keep fighting. And for someone who is a caregiver or who has a loved one who has been diagnosed with a disorder, I would just suggest you educate yourself on the disorder as much as you can, ask questions and ask them how you can be there for themselves. And just listen, be empathetic, be compassionate, show grace to them. And yeah, your most important thing is do not assume, but ask. Leave your preconceived notions that you have aside and learn about the disorder, because people with bipolar have it differently. Every person who has bipolar deals with it very differently. You need to ask yourself, you need to get curious, and you need to ask yourself, how do I help this particular individual better, this particular loved one better? And you need to just be open to information.
Wow, that is all such great advice. And I love the education piece because I'm very big on educating yourself on your own diagnoses.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you know better than the doctor does because you know what you've been going through and feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ivanica. I've really enjoyed talking with you. Would you tell us again what your address for your website is?
So I don't have a website, I have a link tree, but you can find me on Instagram at avantika.b02, B for balloon. And you can find Beautiful You at Beautiful You. You can find all the work that we do there. We have a link tree in the bio. You can just get access to all the information that we have out there. And yeah, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you. You have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of Advancing with Amy, Mental Health Warrior and Neurospicy Mama. Today we had the pleasure of speaking with Avantika, who opened up about her journey with bipolar disorder from a very young age. She shared her experiences with finding the right mental health professionals, the importance of peer support, and coping strategies that have worked for her. We hope her story has inspired and educated you. Thank you so much, Avantika, for joining us today and sharing your valuable insights. If you'd like to learn more about Avantika or connect with her, you can find her contact information in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share the podcast. Your feedback helps us reach more people and provide valuable content to those who need it. Don't forget to subscribe to Advancing with Amy, Mental Health Warrior, and Neurospicy Mama, so that you never miss an episode. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, every story shared can light the way for someone else. Keep on advancing, warriors.